everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm not going to even waste too much time. We got Jake Reed from, yes, the best trio to ever do it. Randy Moss, Chris Carter, and Jake Reed. Yeah, that trio for the Minnesota Vikings. We got him coming up in the Hangin' Ron Johnson segment. But the Minnesota Vikings return home from London, 1-1 after their international back-to-back Dublin in London. We'll talk about all that and much more coming up next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today on the Ron Johnson Show. It's a beautiful Tuesday. I love the backdrop. Look at the sky. It's not snowing, so we can't beat that. But I got Jake Reed joining me today in the Hangin' Ron Johnson segment, so we're going to get to that. But also, we're going to talk Minnesota Vikings. And, of course, 1-1. Should be 2-0 coming home, but they're 1-1, so at least they did get a win over the Browns. But I want everybody to know, before we jump into the show, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers right now get your first $5 bet wins. You get $300 in bonus bets. I told you guys, I've done it. It's simple. It's easy. I bet $5 on the Lakers, I think, to beat the Nuggets if I go way back to a couple years ago, and I won. And what did I do? I got to bank that $150 back then. Now it's $300. It's double what it was when I did it. If I could do it all over again, I would do it again. This time, probably put my money on the Buccaneers because the Buccaneers seem like an easy victory. So hopefully that's your bet this week, whether your first $5 bet and it wins. Get you $300. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, as we jump into the show, and I bring my producer to the show, Sam Ekstrom. Sam, the Minnesota Vikings are 1-1. Now, the one thing I talked about with this team, I thought they would be 4-1 up to this point. I thought they would have lost to the Bengals, beat the Falcons. That flip, Jake Browning comes in. We see the Bengals are terrible without Joe Burrow. So I know that there's no love lost right now with them hoping Joe Burrow comes back healthy because it does not look good for them. But with the Minnesota Vikings, I thought the Steelers was a winnable game. I knew the Browns was a winnable game. Browns was closer probably than it should have been. Shout out to the Wires that knocked the football down. That should have been an easy field goal at that point to win with a field goal. And then they had to go for a touchdown to win. But, hey, Jordan Addison suspended for the first quarter of the game. Came back to catch the game-winning touchdown. So you got to love that. But the one thing, Sam, if I'm not mistaken, other than Christian Darrisaw having to go out with a pitch count, everybody came back healthy. And I think that was the key. I saw Brian O'Neill last night. He and I chopped it up for a little bit and kind of asked him what happened on his injury. He said, man, somebody just fell on me on the field goal, and it is what it is. So hopefully he should be back, but he was walking around. So that is a good sign that it's not one of those needs crutches, needs a cast, needs anything like that. So it should be a simple comeback from injury where it just has to heal and take time to heal off of a minor knee injury. But when you look at, because this was a knee or an ankle, which one was it? Was it knee?
Sprained MCL, yeah. Knee.
Sprained MCL, so knee, yeah. So the fact that he is able to walk around is a good sign towards just it's got to heal. And when you look at the way the offensive line is built, having 3 out of the 5 offensive linemen out is not a great solution, but they did end up winning that game with 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen out in the fourth quarter. Christian Darrisaw wasn't down that stretch of that 80-yard drive. 10 plays, 80 yards, by the way, capped off by Jordan Addison touchdown. I think, 9 for 9 was Carson Wentz at one point in that drive. But when you go back and you look at what this team could be, you get Brian O'Neill back at some point. Hopefully you get Donovan Jackson back at some point. Hopefully you get Kelly back at some point. Fries has been pretty good. Christian Darrisaw is pretty good. But this is going to be a tough uphill battle, first of all, with the Eagles. But Sam, before we get into the Eagles, what did you see overseas?
Yeah, Ron, I saw a more nuanced and creative offensive approach, I feel like, in the short passing game. They generated some good screens, some interesting concepts, and that is something that helped them on that game-winning touchdown drive. Carson Wentz, 9 for 9, right down the field, lickety-split. And whether it's Wentz and McCarthy after the bye, I'd like to see that copy-pasted a little bit. Offensively, especially with a banged up offensive line, you've had like 40% of your starters hurt for some portion of these first 5 games. Frankly, you're a little lucky to be 3-2. You snuck by the Bears, you snuck by the Browns, but you've had a lot of self-inflicted issues, a lot of penalties, a lot of giveaways. That's got to change coming out of the bye, because now you're leveling up with the schedule. You've got the Eagles, you've got the Lions, you've got the Chargers. We thought the Ravens were going to be a tough game, maybe not as hard as we thought, but it's all
Cooper Rush might be back. Or sorry, Lamar might be back by then.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You got to be better though. You got to eliminate the mistakes, and you got to get healthier out of the bye to stay in this mix. But 3-2, you're right there. Now you got to get better.
Yeah, and the one thing I looked at when you think about the Eagles coming to town is they're having some turmoil with their wide receivers. Somebody asked Jalen Hurts what the relationship was like with him and AJ Brown, and he kind of said something like, "I know I got to get him the ball" or something. So it doesn't seem like everything is looking great there. I think every once in a while you see the Stephon Diggs, his receiver issues with, or sorry, his quarterback issues with his yardage and throws and attempts and all that stuff. So it seems like every once in a while there's a receiver quarterback kind of conundrum or some type of like issue. And this year seems to be AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. So hopefully that carries over. Because when you go to that game, Sam, you're right. They have to start fast. They have to come out with an offense that looks like a 2-minute drill. You don't want to go 3-and-out early against the Eagles, because that gives, one, your fans are going to boo. 2, whoever's the quarterback, people are going to question why isn't the other guy in. And then 3, you don't want to give any type of hope to the Eagles that this is going to be an easy game. You want them to feel pressured. You want them to have to push the envelope. You want them to implode on the sideline when it's not going good. If the Vikings can come out and score maybe too early, even if it's a field goal touchdown, 10-0, and the Eagles aren't getting the ball to AJ Brown, I'm looking forward to that, because that allows them to implode on the sideline. Maybe Jalen Hurts to force it into AJ Brown just to keep him happy. Like, here, take it. What are you going to do with it? And then, like it can go south really fast for the Eagles. And we've seen it. I mean, honestly, we've seen it from Odell Beckham losing his mind. We've seen Stephon Diggs not too happy with his situation more than once. So it does happen when receivers just aren't. Terrell Owens, him and Donovan McNabb back in the day, they had their brouhaha and kind of like, give me the ball. And so there is that comes up. I mean, Keyshawn Johnson, his whole book was give me the damn ball. So, he got suspended, I think, off the Buccaneers that year when they won the Super Bowl. So it's just, it happens. Some receivers just kind of get into their feelings, and they, especially now with social media be the first place you can go with your emotions. It's now right away after a game, AJ Brown go to Twitter. This is what I'm talking about, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on with you and Jalen Hurts? So for the Minnesota Vikings, they have to start fast. You cannot allow them to feel any type of confidence in that building. You have to let your fans stay in the game, because if you go down early, 14-0, 10-0, and the Vikings offense is slow, whoever's the quarterback at that moment, do you then make the change? Because if it is Carson Wentz, do you go with JJ McCarthy? If it is JJ McCarthy, do you start screaming for Carson Wentz to get out there? Like, it is the Vikings are in the worst possible situation right now, because no matter how bad it goes, people are always going to say, well, that other guy maybe is better. And I think that's a tough place to be. The best situation for the Vikings is whoever they decide to play against the Eagles, that person shows up. And speaking of receivers, we got Jake Reed joining us in the Hangin' Ron Johnson segment, and that's coming up after a word from our sponsors.
Before we get to Jake Reed, let me tell you about FanDuel. NFL season's moving into week 6, and FanDuel still has this offer that you don't want to miss. You can bet $5. New customers, bet $5. Get $300 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. Pick a bet, put down $5, win it, unlock $300 in bonus bets, and you can sprinkle that all across the app however you want to. I'm always telling you about the ways you can wager. There's a lot of them. Live wagering, same game parlays, future bets, your traditional spread or over-under, all available at FanDuel. Put a little bit on the game, make that game mean a lot more, and you make the season mean a lot more if it's a futures bet as well. Make that fun last for months. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com or the FanDuel Sportsbook app and get started today.
So there's a special Hangin' Ron Johnson segment. I got a guy from Covington, Georgia. Now, I went to the University of Minnesota out of high school in 1998. And for those that are in the Minnesota area, those nationally you should know as well. In 1998, the Minnesota Vikings had one of the most prolific offenses, I'd say. And when you look at, Jake Reed being a part of the Vikings organization, the Saints organization, the trio, the triple threat, the posters, the bobbleheads, all the stuff, Jake Reed, out of Grambling State, 3rd-round pick to the Minnesota Vikings, played for the Vikings from 1991 to 1999. This is a guy who has amassed 1,000-yard catches in first of each of the 4 consecutive seasons. A lot of guys don't do that. Him and Chris Carter were just a treacherous duo, and then you added Randy Moss to it. It was crazy. But, at 6'3", 200-plus pounds, Jake Reed was a guy that I watched because that was my size when I played. So with no further ado, we'll bring Jake Reed to the show. Jake, man, appreciate you joining me on the Hangin' With Ron Johnson segment, man. First off, man, I do want to say that, man, when I got to Minnesota, I was probably 210 pounds, 6'3". And so, my dad, Ron Johnson Sr., who passed away, in 2018, but, him and Chris Carter knew each other. He played for the Steelers from 78 to like 86. So he introduced me to Chris Carter. He introduced me to Denny Green, Brian Billick, Tony Dungy. Him and Tony Dungy played together. So Dungy was kind of like, my mentor, godfather growing up. Okay. And the one thing a lot of people said was, man, like, watch Jake Reed. Watch how he releases off the line. Watch how he runs routes, because we were the same size, same weight. And honestly, man, that's how Keyshawn Johnson was another guy like Tony Dungy introduced me to Keyshawn Johnson. Matter of fact, I don't know, you might have been back. This might have been like 2001. You might have been back with the Vikings. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers came to Minnesota to play you guys here and at the Metrodome at the time. And Tony Dungy reached out to me. I was a senior in college, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come meet Keyshawn Johnson?" I'm like, "Cool." Went to the hotel, met Keyshawn Johnson the night before the game. The next day, he got me sideline passes to the game, which the NCAA tried to look into that. Like, how are you getting, silent? Hey, he's previous relationship. It's okay. This is not like a paid, illegal thing, but got a chance to be on the sideline to see you guys up close and personal with Keyshawn and so on and so forth. And that's the one thing I remember, man, is just watching you run routes. So when you think about, coming out of Grambling State, HBCU stuff, coming to the NFL, what was the biggest transition for you coming from a black college going to the NFL?
Well, when I first got to Minnesota, when they drafted me, I had to look on the map like, man, where's that? And it's way up north, and wow, it's super cold. But getting here, my adjustment coming to the NFL, I was very talented coming out of Grambling. So I beat a lot of guys that I played against in the SWAC just because of my size, my speed, and my ability. But I understood once I got here, Chris Carter set me down and said, "Hey, you got to be a little bit more crafty than that to just beat these guys. You just can't beat them all pure speed." Because I think I ran like a 4.4 at the combine at my size. So just getting here, just the adjustment of learning how to study film each and every day. Because we watch film at Grambling, but I didn't know how to study film. They said that's a big difference. People said, "Man, you got to watch a lot of film." Watching film just like watching a movie. But do you know how to study the film and study your opponent that you're going against? And I think that's one of my biggest adjustments. I had to learn how to study the film when I'm going against someone like Darryl Green or going against Deion Sanders or watching Run a Lot come down the slide. If he on your side, Run a Lot on your side, you better be careful. Steve Atwater, you better be careful. So that was one of my biggest adjustments, just learning how to study the film and really be more crafty in my route running to get open.
And the Minnesota Vikings are going to get a healthy boost of a duo this week. They get Jordan Addison back with Justin Jefferson. And looking at, you and Chris Carter, 207 receptions, which was an NFL record at the time. This was 1994. You combined to become the first teammate duo to amass 1,000 yards in each of 4 consecutive seasons. You also had a month in 1997. I don't know if you remember this, 34 catches, 521 yards in that month, which made you NFC Offensive Player of the Month. You also had 12 plays of 50-plus yards. And so when I say that to say Chris Carter is going to get eyes on him, and you were able to take the top off the defense, I think Jordan Addison has a similar type of relationship with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson running an over route. Safeties are going to pay attention to that because they don't want to give up the big over route to Justin Jefferson. We saw last week versus the Bengals, big over route, makes a guy miss, runs a guy over, gets more yards. When you think about you in that offense and you look at Jordan Addison, in your mind, did you always kind of have that thought like, hey, if he's got the over route and I got the deep post, they're going to be paying attention to Chris. I got to get open for the quarterback.
Well, I was winning the game regardless. I know Chris Carter was there. Then when Randy Moss came in, I always had the mindset that I was the best receiver on the field.
Okay.
You know, regardless who what, Randy Moss, I feel like I was the best receiver on the field. So I think when I thought like that, it just made me feel like, hey, I ran every route as I was open. I didn't realize, you know, even in practice sometimes, you know, since playing football, sometimes when they put the game plan in, you pretty much know where the ball is going.
Yeah.
Receiver. You know what I'm saying? But my thought process was, you know what, if they're covered, I need to run the best route on the backside because he may come back to me. And a lot of time, you know, the quarterback, Cunningham, Moon, or Brad Johnson, they will come back that way because a lot of time they got Randy doubled on the outside, got Chris Brackett on the inside to stop them, and I would be wide open. So I got a lot of my, I wouldn't say garbage play, but I got a lot of my plays for just straight running my routes, doing what I need to do. And I think that what Allison need to do on the backside. Don't take a play off because that play you take off can be your big play that you miss by taking off.
Yeah.
So I think they got a great chance, you know, especially having Thielen back there. So they got a good chance to have a nice 3 deep themselves if they just continue to push each other throughout the practice.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy week for them, too. They're practicing today. They're practicing tomorrow. Then they jump on an 8 p.m. flight, headed over to Ireland, and then they're going to spend 2 weeks overseas. You talked about that. You said, you know, you went over there last year. You and your wife spent 15 days overseas. As a player, do you think this is going to become a trend moving forward where teams spend 2 weeks overseas? And what does that do to your body being over there that long and then coming back?
Well, and I tell you what, I spent 15 days over there last year. It was tough on me, you know. So I can imagine the player, you know, getting up, working out, and then got the, you know, the stress of the game and dealing with the media and stuff like that. But I think it just comes down to mental. You got to know why you're there. Like Denny Green used to tell us, like, don't get comfortable. You got to know why you're there. The food may be cold, the bed may be hard, but we're here to take care of business. And they got to put that in mind. We're here to take care of business. I know it's 2 weeks, but it's 2 weeks out of your life in the season, which is a small amount of time. You got to remember, you're here to take care of business. And I think if they put that in their mind, hey, we're here to take care of business, we're going to be out of here, I think it'd be fine. Now, it's not going to be tough because some of them, a lot of times, their family not going to be able to make it. And some of them may be missing their family, especially young. And it's a different environment for them. But if they put in their mind, hey, the food may not be good. The bed may be hard. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's business. Let's take care of our business. Let's get these W's. Let's get back home, and you'll feel a lot better. Now, what'll make the trip worse, if you don't take care of your business, you get 2 L's over there. Now you really feel like crap.
Yeah, and that's a tough flight back. You got a bye week you got to sit on, and you got the Eagles, you got the Chargers, you got the Lions. I mean, it's a tough stretch of games coming up in there. And when you think, oh, no, not the Lions, Chargers, Eagles, and I was just looking at that, Ravens. No, sorry. They do have the Lions. They have the Lions week 9. So, yeah, so that's a tough stretch. You got the Eagles, Chargers, Lions, Ravens. So that's a tough stretch of 4 to come back after 2 losses to play 4 really good NFL teams. But speaking of NFL teams, players, one thing I wanted to ask you. So HBCUs, when I was growing up, 1998, 97, 96, you know, a lot of guys didn't take going to an HBCU as like a blessing. Some guys took it as like, oh man, you know, Michigan didn't want, because I'm from Detroit. So it was like Michigan didn't want me. Michigan State didn't want me. I'll just go to Hampton. I'll go to Howard. I'll go, you know, and then guys started realizing like, well, you know, Tuskegee, man, that's a good school. Like it's a historic school. Like Grambling, man, that's a great school. You know, they put on a show. But now you have a trend of like Eddie George went to, you know, Tennessee State. You had Deion Sanders at Jackson State. You got Norfolk State went and got Michael Vick. You had Delaware State went and got Deshaun Jackson. What do you think the trend is for these former players now going back, trying to not only inject life into the HBCU, but for these schools to realize if we go get a great coach and a coach that these kids know, maybe this will draw the talent in as well?
But not just the talent, it brings a lot of attention to the school. And you have a lot of talent in the HBCU.
Yeah.
You got to look at it. The leaders in the NFL, you know, Mike Strahan, you know, Texas Southern. Before Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Jackson State, leading receiver, Jerry Rice, Mississippi Valley. So the talent is there, you know, but we just got to continue to, in the NFL, focus on these young guys and the black HBCU school because the talent is there. and by the coaches, Michael Vick and Deion Sanders and Eddie George, them guys going back there, it brings them more attention to it. But not only that, though, it can help them with the marketing and, generating cash to come in and help the program. Because a lot of time our HBCUs are underfunded, and we don't have the money to compete with the big schools. Because it's all about the flash. You show these, a lot of young guys the big nice facilities and things like that, so they go for that. But I think any athlete can make it from anywhere. You just got to put the work in. If you put the work in and put up good numbers, they will find you. And that's one of the things that led to me going to Grambling. I had the University of Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina looking at me. But when I went down to Grambling and playing up under Coach Eddie Robinson, I was like, man, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, and Eddie Robinson was like, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. So, my coach at the time, Coach Reynolds, James Reynolds, he had ties to Grambling, Tuskegee. And so I remember, going to some of those games. I think they played a game in Detroit. It was like Grambling versus somebody in Detroit at the Silver Dome back, when the Lions played there. They had a college game there. And I just remember that. I remember the atmosphere, the cheerleaders, the band. And, somebody actually posted a video it must have come up on something. I don't know, Fox News or Detroit something news on TV or, NBC. And it's me and another guy. He played quarterback at Duke. He was my quarterback growing up. And we were at the game. We had to be every bit of 10 or 11 or 12. And so somehow somebody found it on YouTube, clipped it, put it out there saying how many future college players were at this game from Detroit, Michigan at the time. Bart Scott was there, who played for the Ravens with me. Larry Foote, with the Steelers, he was there. And so we all grew up together. We all played together, and we all were at this game to see Grambling. I don't even know who they were playing. Probably Tuskegee. Who knows who they were playing at the time. But when you look at stuff like that, you talked about that, bringing guys back, being able to see the talent level. Do you think it's going to be former players, like you said, Michael Strahan and all these guys, maybe pouring back into the universities even more now?
Well, I would hope so. Like I said, the talent is there. And you got a lot of NFL Hall of Famers from HBCUs, because it's guys that really can play there. So I hope we don't overlook. But I would tell you this one thing. When I got to the league and we worked so hard in practice, I was able to outwork a lot of the guys who went to the Power Fives. I think they just had it too soft and too comfortable in those nice facilities. We didn't have much. So since we didn't have much, we just able to work. But I know they don't change the practice rules now, because Coach Rob will have us out there. We'll get out of practice and have a bad practice. We'll have go dinner and have to come back to practice. I know you can't do that anymore, So I was raised up in an era of football where, hey, that the rules wasn't the rules, whatever the coach said you had to do. So, but I'm just hoping that, a lot of these guys come back and really pour into these schools and help bring in capital. But on that, though, help bring a lot of attention for the scouts to get there and see these guys. A lot of times, these guys that played in the league for Michael Vick, it's easy for them to reach out and say, hey, man, look at this guy, and bring light on a certain guy that they may see the best that make them compete at the next level.
Yeah, and this past weekend, I got a chance to see all the alumni guys. All you guys were back. Over 100 players came back. They had a waiting list to get guys in, but Jim Marshall was honored during the game. His granddaughter blew the horn for the pregame as well. And I got a chance to talk to Sue Marshall as well, his wife, and she talked about, her talking to the players before the game and the stuff that, resonated. And the players went out there and killed it. But, as a former player, when you're back in town, how cool is that, that the Vikings still bring you guys back? And what was the weekend like for you?
It was a very amazing weekend. I think that was my first time back in like 4 or 5 years. My wife been pushing me to come back every year. So I think we may put that on the list. And it's great to see guys, because life moves fast. And see some guys who may be there with you 1 year and the next year they are gone. Some guys there and they, can't remember as much. But just to get back and see the guys, man, to hug on and see them and see how they're doing, man, it's truly a blessing to me. And now on that, though, it just realized, especially on my 98 group and the years I was there, just how much love we have for each other. So it's really a different feeling, a warm feeling, and it's a really good feeling that you cannot get anywhere else. You know, it's almost like a locker room feel again.
Yeah.
You know, their weekend almost like a locker room feel again. A bunch of old stories, you know, but the stories get greater and greater as you get older and older. You know that. But it's a great feeling to be back that weekend. You know, Tom and Tracy them and the Vikings, they put on a great show for the older guys, and I love it.
Yeah, man, it's always fun to see you guys hang out. Every time I talk to guys about that too, I always tell guys, like, you brought up a good point, man. Stay connected to the guys. The stories continue to resonate. The mind stays sharp, and you get a chance to really just hang out with friends. And one thing, you know, when I was listening to some guys talk about, you know, just the team, because Randy Moss came up and some other stuff came up with him and, you know, his diagnosis with cancer and being cancer free now. But I want to transition before we get to that. I want to ask you a question, mindset wise. So 1994, we talked about that. You and Chris Carter from 94 to 97 absolutely killed it. You know, 1,100 yards, 1,300 yards in 1996, 1,100 yards in 97. And then they draft Randy Moss, and the production, the skill is there, but the production drops down. The games played too. You only played 11 games, so guessing there was some injury in there. But, you know, 474 yards. You know, Randy Moss kind of comes in as a rookie and just takes off. You guys are still a great trio the next year. You know, all 16 games, 643 yards in 99. But as a guy, you know, knowing, you know, 4 years in a row, I was an 1,100 yard, 1,300 yard receiver. I know what you said. I'm the best receiver on the field. How did that mindset for you have to stay locked in, you know, when Randy Moss got there and things kind of changed a little bit?
Well, once we drafted Randy, I think Chris called me, and, you know, we both were excited because we knew me and Chris were strong together.
Yeah.
We knew adding that piece with Randy Moss, we were going to, like, kill it. And going into that 98 season, people got to realize those games before that Cowboy game, I started, and Randy Moss coming off the bench. But I had back surgery the week before the Thanksgiving game.
Okay.
And I had that back surgery, and I had just got to the hospital on Thanksgiving Day, and I was sitting in my chair, and I watched Randy Moss kill the Cowboys. And at that moment, I told myself, well, I guess I'm the third receiver. I'm done in Minnesota, because he really killed it. But I would tell you, me and Randy have a great relationship. From day one, it was all about the team. It wasn't no type of like animosity. Oh, you here? This, that. It was about the team. And I said, I think that's why we're still really good friends now. I can pick up the phone and call him. He gonna answer me right away. What you need? I got you. You need me to come? He'll do anything for me. And I think that just comes from just the love that I showed when he was here, because it was all about the team in 98 and the time with there, because we really, really wanted to get to that next level and win the Super Bowl. We just fell short of that game. I think we had it. And you got to remember, and I didn't play in that Falcon game, game, but I was still recovering from my back surgery. And the deal was, if I recovered enough, I was going to play in the Super Bowl, but we never got there.
Yeah, and, you know, I've heard the stories from Brian Billick. You know, he was my head coach with the Baltimore Ravens, so I've heard the stories about you guys. And Corey Fuller, you know, he came over from the Vikings and came with Gary Zahner, who was you guys' special teams coach. He was our special teams coach with the Ravens as well. And so I've heard all the 98. I mean, I was there though too. I was in Minnesota, living it as a freshman at the University of Minnesota. So I remember, you know, because we played at the Metrodome too. So I remember like guys talking about it, like, you know, after we play on Saturday, Sunday was kind of like rehab, get ice, do a little stretch and lift, and then be home by noon to kind of catch the Vikings game and see what was going to happen. Yeah. And, you know, as a receiver, I personally loved it. Because one, I would tell Glenn Mason, like, hey, why aren't we doing this? You know, we got 3-4 receivers out here. And it took, I think it took Glenn Mason probably 3 years, because by my junior year, he finally started going 4 wide. But, you know, at first, Minnesota was always, I mean, we had Lawrence Maroney, Marion Barber. Back then we had Thomas Hamner. You know, we had Tellus Redmond. And so Glenn Mason wanted to run the ball. I mean, I remember one game, we ran the ball 46 times in a game. Wow. Like, yeah, he was a run the ball guy. It was the Big Ten back then, Ron Dane and all that stuff. You know, it was smash mouth football. You had Allstott at Purdue. So finally, my junior year, I think enough of watching the Vikings for 98, 99, 2000. Yeah. And then Mason was like, oh, let's try this. Let's see what happens if we put 4 receivers on the field at the same time. And it's all she wrote. We had my junior year was we beat Ohio State. We beat Penn State. So we had a great year of just throwing the ball around the field. We had 3 of us, all 3 receivers went to the NFL. So it was a great feeling. But, looking back at that, though, you talked about the 98 season not making it. And I've had former guys on that were part of that. Chris Carter, he was on. We had one of the linebackers came on, and one of the linebackers made a funny joke. He just said, when the kicker was going out there, he was like, man, we was already like ready. He was like, we was like, cigars was coming out. He's like, we got this. And he said, man, when you missed that kick, he said, man, as a defensive guy, he said, man, I want to kick his ass. He said, but you know what? He said, it is what it is. We shouldn't have put him in that position. Maybe we should have done this. We could have done that, X, Y, and Z. We left it all up to that. And if he makes it, he's a hero. He misses it, and everybody's talking about that season. Brian Billick even talked about that. I remember Brian Billick brought up like guys arguing and no type of discrepancies in the locker room because the Ravens had won the Super Bowl before I got there. And so, he felt like, they can get back with Ed Reed. They drafted Ed Reed my year. And so they're like, we can get back with this defense. And same thing, we ended up making the playoffs a couple of times and lost every year right before it mattered. But when you look at that 98 season, is there anything in your mind you play back in that Falcons game to say like, yeah, and that, like maybe if you played, it's not even that close?
Well, I think if I have played, I don't think they wouldn't be able to bracket Chris and double Randy the way they did. They would have to adjust the defense differently because they didn't have that third receiver to guard a guy like me, that third cornerback, I mean. So I think they made some adjustment. They did well. But I tell you what, though, like I said, we was already packed and ready to go to Miami. I think that's when Will Smith had that song, "We're going to Miami," going back to Miami. We were over there jamming that song in the locker room. We were ready to go. And, man, that kick really let a lot of air out of us. But I tell you what, I wasn't angry at the kicker. Things happen.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't have put him in that situation. I think with our high-power offense, I think that fumble right before halftime gave Atlanta life. When they scored right before halftime, gave them life. I think if that would have never happened, just kneeled the ball and kneeled it out and went in at halftime, started going for a deep shot, I think that it would have been a total game coming out the halftime. But when you give a team any type of life, and they're able to go into halftime and adjust, it's kind of hard. I don't think we let our guards down. I think that we just gave them life, and they feel like they can win.
Yeah, and that's the tough thing. I mean, everybody can play like the Vikings. I mean, when they kicked that 62-yard field goal, I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing. Like, you run a trick play right before that, so you're trying to get in field goal range. Why not just run the ball or throw something easy to get in field goal range? Yeah. Play doesn't work. Still tries to kick a 62-yard field goal. Makes it though. Like it could have been a change of like misses it. Guys back in the back of the end zone, because it was a part of I had never seen it before this, but I think 2002 or 2003, we were playing Monday Night Football against the Broncos. Broncos try to kick a deep one. Chris McAllister is in the back of the end zone, catches it, acts like he's just going to walk off the field. And then, and Gary Zahner must have been thinking about this, ran a wall for him. Basically, all the defenders kind of lined up in a wall. He takes off running. Broncos have, all their field goal guys on the field, so nobody's fast with Chris McAllister, the cornerback at the time. He scores a 109-yard touchdown. And now you see more people doing it. I had never seen it before that. I probably never paid attention to it before that. But, that's one of those things that could have been deflating if that had happened to the Vikings. They make it, even more celebration, Vikings history, 62-yard field goal, longest in Vikings history.
Right.
So it doesn't happen. But you're right. Like, giving a team momentum for no reason sometimes can really shoot you in the foot. When you look at your career, though, you decided to return to Minnesota. So you left, went to the Saints, and then returned to Minnesota. What was the thought process there?
Well, hoping that we can get back that magic from '98, So I was just hoping to get back that. But I always wanted to finish my career there. I wish I could have just played my whole entire 12 years there. But going to the Saints was a situation where my wife is from Louisiana. Her mom was in the 70s and something. So it was just like I made that decision to go so we can be closer to her mom and stuff like that. Even though I had met some good friends with New Orleans, and I think it was good, met some good friends. But if I could have had my way, I would have took less money and stayed my whole 12 years with the Vikings because I really had a great experience. I love the foundation the Vikings built on faith, family, and football, and they take it to the heart. So I think that's why the Legend Weekend is so great because they really believe faith, family, and football. And so, like Denny Green always said, if you got your faith right and you taking care of your family, it'll be easy for you to put everything into football.
Yeah. And speaking of that, speaking of faith, family, football, the family side of it, man, like I really saw it with you guys. You and Chris Carter came out onto the field with Randy Moss's jersey when he was going through something. Justin Jefferson, scored a touchdown and kind of, screamed to Randy Moss. He loved him. We had kind of heard some stuff, but, internally, like, again, my job as an analyst for the Minnesota Vikings is not to talk about anything I hear in the building. It's not for me to put out I'm not Adam Schefter. I'm not out here trying to break news and all that. I'm breaking down football. Like I said, before this interview, I was watching Brown film for the next game, and I already kind of broke down the Steelers film. And we do a film segment before every game called a 3-minute drill, and I break down 3 to 4 plays with the coach's blessing, of course, but I break down 3 to 4 plays, and I kind of just give tips and stuff here and there as a former player and a coach of what I see, what could happen, and then hopefully it transfers into the game. And so that's not my job, but hearing the Randy Moss stuff, again, being a kid here in Minnesota in 1998 in college, I took to that. It was seeing him in Marshall before that. I remember I was a high school, I was a high school senior and junior when he was at Marshall, so I kind of heard his whole story. Honestly, our coach would use stuff like that to kind of keep us in line in Detroit, because I had friends going to jail. I had friends, getting shot, all kinds of stuff. And so he would always say, man, like, one mistake can have you going from, and I went to the University of Minnesota, could have you going from Minnesota to jail. It could have you going from Minnesota to nowhere. It could have you going from, Florida State all the way down to a D3, or JUCO. He's like, just be careful what you guys do when you leave the high school, when you leave your house. And so I heard the Randy Moss story and all the stuff he had been through. And then I hear this, and it was like, it kind of, honestly, like, I reached out to the Vikings and was like, hey man, I need to get a physical, cause I, as a black man, I don't think I ever was taught to go to the doctor. Women are taught that because they have the women's stuff they have to do it for, but I don't think men are taught to go to the doctor. Like, and so first thing my wife said, she's like, you got to go. So I actually finally set a doctor's appointment. I've done a couple now. I got another one coming up. Some of the stuff men have to do, I'm like, this doesn't feel right, but I'm like, you know what? I got to do it. I just turned 45. So I'm like, it's time, I haven't scheduled a colonoscopy yet, but I know I got to do it. But when you heard about Randy Moss, man, what did that kind of do to you? And then now hearing he's cancer free,
Well, it was tough. I think last year, Randy's supposed to meet me and Chris over in London.
Yeah.
We were going to do like a 3 deep signing. And at the last minute, Randy texted me and said, Jake, I can't make it. So I let the marketing lady know Randy and I can be able to make it. At that point, I knew something was up. Didn't know what's up because Randy don't never just flake. If he tell me he's going to do something, he does it. And so, but once he came out with that news, I was like, my heart just, sunk. And, I was just praying that he was okay. But I would tell you throughout his whole ordeal, I would text him Randy like every week, every 2 weeks. I know he was his phone. We weren't taking any calls, so I would DM him on his ex. I would DM him on Instagram. And he was slow to get back to me. Then I sent him a text, hey, man, you might want to answer me because I'm not going to stop texting you. So he would start responding. So we were talking like every 2 weeks, just checking on him, see how we're doing and stuff like that. And that was what it's all about, just checking on each other, and making sure he was okay. And things that he told me I never mentioned to anyone else, other than I would just text him other 2 weeks, and I won't mention anything else. Yeah, no. Because we are great friends, and we've been through a lot. We've seen a lot. We have said a lot around each other that between us. And I think for the Chicago game, he wanted me to come up to Chicago for the Monday night game just to see me because I've been in touch with him the whole time. But just to see him on TV, man, to see that he's looking healthy, that he's feeling good and, and stuff like that, man, it's awesome. Because I've been looking for his post of him fishing. He said, man, I've been fishing. I just haven't been posting. But that what got me through my fishing. I would go out on my boat and I would fish, and that what got me through this thing, Jake. That he got me through it, and I'm very happy about that. But I'm happy to see that he's feeling a lot better.
Yeah, man, well, I'm glad he is too, because I know he's a big part of football, the football world. He created an entire movement of kids now. I know the young kids now call it a head tap, but that was the Moss. Like, you got Mossed. That was the thing. And that's the one thing I'll say, man, when you guys were in the thick of it, because all you guys were doing it. I mean, mainly I know you and Moss for sure were over the top of guys. Chris was more one-handed, crafty around guys. He had some interesting one, but you and Moss both used to get up there. When it was happening, 98, 99, did you realize that it was going to become the movement that it is now with You Got Mossed?
No, I did not. But I would tell you this in practice. I would see Moss run so fast. I was like, and how it started in practice, man. We was in practice one day, and Moss was upset. I think I was so upset. He was concerned. We run no 5-yard start route, and Moss come up and said, "Denny, I'm not running no 5-yard start route if the guy's sitting at 8 yards." Then I said, well, "That's what we got to do." Moss said, "No. When I throw my hand up, throw the ball as far as you can throw it." And run the corner, and of course said, "Man, you can't outrun my arm." Moss said, "Throw it far as you can throw it." So on a 5-yard stop, of course, me and Chris can do that. But if you're sitting at 8 yards on Moss, we had a 5-yard stop. Moss gonna throw his hand up about 2 steps off the ball and run straight past the guy. Only way he ran a 5-yard stop route, the guy sitting 10 or 12 yards off of him. But if he anywhere in between that 10-yard, 8-yard, 9-yard, he would run right past him. So seeing that in practice, then seeing him put it together in the game, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to watch him just run past guys and they 8, 9, 10 yards off him. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Before we get out of here, one last one. When you think about your Minnesota Vikings, your NFL career, everything, man, like what's one memory that will always be etched in your brain, like when you just think about football? What's the first thing that comes up when you think about the Minnesota Vikings and playing football here in Minnesota?
I guess, like I said, the Faith family football. From Fred Zambaletti and Dennis Ryan and all those guys. How they really took care of me. Young country guy coming from Georgia, coming from Grambling, never been up north in the snow, and Tom Moore, and those guys who really just took me up under my wing, and taught me a lot of different things. And just like they could have easily got rid of me, because at one point I had a left eye problem that every time I line up on the right side of the quarterback, I could not see the ball.
Wow!
And they sent me up to Portland and really worked with me to the Nike camp and worked on getting my eyes straight and just worked with me. So those memories, how they really took me up under my wings and guided me through those years. And because, got to realize, I didn't really starting until my 4th year in the league. Okay. So they were patient with me. And so just being up on them guys and Coach Green, those guys, man, changed my life forever. So, hey, in the snow, I remember that Halloween night, 1991, that 31 inches of snow, that changed my life also. But just being in Minnesota, man, I feel good going back up there every time I go, and it's a good feeling.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because 2001, 1997 on my recruiting trip, it was also one of those like snowstorms, like 90. I think it was either 98 or 97. My recruiting trip to Minnesota, there was like another 20-inch snowstorm, and I still committed. But I'm from Detroit, so I was kind of used to snow, just not that much snow, but I was used to it. But yeah, that's crazy, man. 1991, your first time in Minnesota, and I've heard stories about the Halloween snowstorm. So that's crazy. Like, were you locked into your, like, how did you get out your house?
Well, the funny story I tell people, I'm from down south. I wake up the next morning. It's nice out the day before. I wake up the next morning. It's snow everywhere. So, of course, I didn't go to work. I sat up in the bed like, oh, man, because down south, when it snows like that, no one goes to work. I get a call from Tom Moore and said, "Where are they? Bleep, bleep, are you?" I said, "Well, Coach, I'm at home. It's snowing outside. I don't give a boop, boop, boop. What are you doing? You better get your pop, pop, pop." All type of cuss words in here right now. This road, you get in here right now. We don't take off for snow. I was like, wow. So I get to my car, get to the facilities, and walk in the meeting. Everybody in the meeting. I walk in late. And everybody gives it to me. They were laughing at me. Because from Grambling. I'm from Georgia. I'm thinking it's snow. No one goes to work. I didn't know you still go to work in the NFL, whether it's a hurricane, a storm. And that was my experience. Like, man, you go to work, and I got cussed out. I got laughed at, joked the whole year. And I wrecked my car 3 times before I got it fixed.
Oh, man.
I didn't know how to drive in the snow. So, but of course, I sold the car at the end of the season because it was all beat up and battered and all that. So, but that was my experience with the snow, man. I got cursed out really good by the receiver coach, Tom Moore, because I sat in the bed and thinking I didn't have to go to work.
That's funny, man, because Tom Moore was at the hospital in Pittsburgh when I was born. So Tom Moore was the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, but he was also good friends with my dad and Dungy and Franco Harris and Mel Blount. So I have like baby pictures of that stuff. Like, that's my dad's Super Bowl balls behind me from when, 78, 79. He has 2 of them. I think my sister has the other one. But like, I remember that because Tom Moore, hopefully I run into Tom before he passes away, but I have to tell him that story. I have to ask him if he remembers that one. Because, yeah, Tom always would tell me, when I was born, I was 12 pounds. So that was the one thing that when my mom had me, a lot of the players could not believe a 12-pound newborn baby was born, and so they wanted to just see it. It was like,
wow.
And I think like my mom said, or Tom or somebody, or Tony Dungy said, like on day 3 or 4, I was so big that I could hold my neck up. Like I was able to hold my head up because I was just so big. And of course, when I was growing up, I was fat. Like I was a chubby kid growing up. I just got lucky. My sophomore year in high school, I grew up instead of out because I played fullback, running back my whole life up until high school, and then finally I started growing taller and got to 6'3", 212 or like 207, I think, my sophomore year. High school, so I just was bigger than everybody. But yeah, I was always a running back. So everybody thought I was gonna be a running back. They're like, you a big fullback, linebacker, running back, and yeah. But Tom Moore, man, that's a small world. And then when I coached with the Colts, Tom was the offensive coordinator. So yeah, so I've crossed paths with Tom a bunch. Well,
when you see Tom Moore, ask Tom Moore. I think Tom Moore did a book. He wrote a book. He put a whole chapter in there about me.
Okay.
He worked with me with my eyesight.
Okay.
He worked with my vision, and ask him about the things we had to do for us. My vision it's amazing, and I'm very honored that he put a chapter in his book about me and my vision, because he said he pretty much, it wasn't for Tom, I don't even know if I would have made it in the league at all. He really worked with me, helped me out.
Yeah, Tom's a great guy. I remember like he showed me how to handle guys like Peyton Manning. I had Reggie Wayne. I had Marvin Harrison. So being I was 31 years old. So I was only a year younger than Reggie. And, I played with Reggie, and now I'm here trying to coach him. So Tom kind of helped me through that, because he was at Eastern Michigan. He actually coached my dad at Eastern Michigan when he was a college coach there. So I've known Tom my whole life. And it's kind of cool to hear that story, because I get where you're going with the snow, but that's hilarious because I knew better. Like being in Detroit. I'm like,
ask any kid to grow up in the South on a nice, especially in Texas. They can't drive in Texas, man. In the ice, they shut everything down. We don't have no trucks. We don't have no snow truck. Too much ice. No one going to work. Kids not going to school. It's nothing. So I took that same mindset to Minnesota. So when that snow hit, I'm up there chilling, like looking at the one, like, wow, look at all this snow. I was amazed. And I didn't go to work, and I got that phone call, and man, it was like, I don't think I ever been cursed out like that in my life.
Man, that's funny. That is funny. Because I know the whole team was sitting there too, like, man, what is this rookie doing? Like,
yeah. But the crazy part about it, that week on game, during the game, I still had to get the donuts in the snow, and that really threw me off. You got to bring the donuts in, and still had to get the donuts. Like, man, it's snowing out, man. I really don't even want to. I barely can make it to the stadium, to the facilities now. Get donuts.
Hey, man, nothing changes, man. I love it. Because that's the same stories I've heard for years when I played. Like, I remember having to go get the chicken for the guys before the plane. And we had a snowstorm in Baltimore. We had a hurricane. We had to leave early and go to San Diego. And at the end of the day, the coach was like, I don't care what it is. We got practice. So Billick was like, get to practice. Like, you got to get to practice. And so,
Right.
yeah, that's hilarious. I'm glad I got a chance to catch up with you, man. I'm Ron Johnson.
Yeah.
That's Jake Reed. I want to thank you guys for joining me on the Ron Johnson show today. That's the Hangin' Ron Johnson segment. We got a short pause, and we're back with the Daily 3 coming up next.
Well, man, I mean, Jake Reed, I grew up watching that guy when I was with the Vikings, or sorry, with the Gophers. Not grew up, but watched him with the Gophers when I was there, and that time frame of him and Randy Moss and Chris Carter is timeless. I mean, best trio in NFL history, in my opinion, one of at least for sure, but if not the best. So it's great to hear from him. But now it's time for the Daily 3, Sam. Take it away.
All right. Kevin O'Connell was pretty transparent in his post-game press conference in London. He said he wasn't sure what the team's identity was and that they needed to figure it out after the bye. What do you think the team's identity should be once we get into week 7?
Yeah, I think it's got to be a high-powered offense. Like, he's got to go fast, fast, fast. He's got to create a NASCAR type of feel. If it is J.J. McCarthy moving the ball faster, running around, that's what they're going to think of. Because I think I've said the same thing. Like, is this a running team? Is this a passing team? What are they going to do? Are they going to force the ball to Jordan Mason, 15, 20 times a game, then give it to Aaron Jones? But he's hurt now. Xavier Scott's really not the guy. I think he's a good fill-in guy and can make some plays, but you definitely are missing Aaron Jones in the passing game and his ability to break off a long run every once in a while. So I totally agree with what he's saying. I do understand. I think the defense is what it is. But they don't have that same like celebration identity anymore with Cam Bynum. So even for them, they got to find out who they are. Like, are they just a blue collar defense that's going to make plays? Do they still want to be the celebration team? Because it's a big shoes to fill from last season. So I understand where Kevin O'Connell's coming from.
Yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell wants to be tougher in the trenches, too. That's where they spent all the offseason money. I think he wants to get better against the run, probably better at running the ball. Ron, there are no undefeated teams left in football. Let me tell you all the 4-1 teams. Buffalo, Indy, Jacksonville, Philadelphia, Detroit, Tampa, and San Francisco. Who do you think is the best team? Who's at the top of your power rankings right now?
I'm still going to go with Buffalo. I think Buffalo from a passing standpoint, throwing the ball around the field. But you know what? After watching the Jags last night against the Chiefs, I'm kind of sold on this Travis Hunter thing. Like, he is a really good receiver. He's a good corner, but he's a really good receiver. Like, he has the ball skills of any other receiver. Routes may not be as good, but his ball skills are great. So I'm going to go with the Bills, though. But I'd say watch out for the Jags. They're kind of right there.
I'm going Lions.
Okay.
Lions have been a freight train since they lost to the Packers.
That is true. That is true.
Their demise has greatly overrated. Last one, Ron. Did you see that LeBron announced another decision this morning? Did you see?
I did not see the decision. What's the decision?
Well, the decision is out there now,
Okay.
and it is a Hennessy commercial. Hennessy commercial.
Okay.
It was not a retirement, not announcing that this is his last year. Hennessy commercial. Did you
Not
think
that
he was going to retire,
for
though?
Bronny. No, I didn't think he was going to retire. I thought he was going to say something like, I'm going to try to wait one more year with Bryce or something, or, we're going to see if we can get Bryce in the NBA next year. But he also did say Bryce is his own kid. He might not be a one and done kid. He might want to be at Arizona because it's a great college for 2 to 3 years to let his adult body come together and then be able to get to the NBA as a true first round pick. I could see that because him and Carmelo Anthony's son both need to get stronger. But Hennessy, I figured it was something. Snoop Dogg did the same thing when he said he was going smokeless, and he ended up going with whatever that company is that does the smokeless fire pit. So it's all about marketing. It's a smart move. Everybody was waiting for it, seeing if he's going to say this is my last go around. The problem is he's waited so long now. I don't think he'll be able to have the go out on a white horse, win a championship type of feeling. Because I don't know if the Lakers are a championship caliber team right now, the way they're built and constructed, because he's not the king that he once was. And can Luka carry it? Maybe. I thought they were going to try to get Kyrie, but that didn't happen. So, we'll see what happens with the Lakers. But yeah, I mean, it's a smart market to play for him. But I want to thank everybody for joining us today on the Hangin' Ron Johnson segment with Jake Reed, the Ron Johnson Show, myself and Sam Ekstrom. I want to thank the everydayers that continue to like, subscribe, download, and tell everybody we're here. And all remember, check out our postcast after every Vikings and Gophers games right now for sure. Twins, you're done, but we did have postcast and then the links as well. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. Oh, and the Wild's coming up. So hockey season is upon us. So I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. And thank you guys, and have a great Tuesday.